A step in the right direction, that coming from an Odessa City Councilwoman after hearing about the guilty verdict in the Derek Chauvin case. News West 9's Rachel Ripp spoke with Councilwoman Willis. Rachel, what else did she have to say?
Well, Crystal, Councilman Willis tells me she breathed a sigh of relief just like thousands of Americans yesterday as she heard the verdict. She said she was waiting on pins and needles as she walked into the Odessa City Council chambers for her work session. The trial is over.
Find the defendant guilty.
Derek Chauvin found guilty on 3 accounts of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter of George Floyd. You'll remember in May of last year, our community here in the city of Odessa mourned his loss. Odessans gathered to hold prayer vigils, marches, and protests in Floyd's honor.
People of all races, our police department was involved, our community was involved, and so we were fortunate to be living in a community where even though there were protests in Odessa, they were very peaceful and very respectful, but also they spoke volumes as to what the community was saying and what it is that we as a community need.
Those things, justice, accountability, which according to Mayor Willis, we're starting to have. Willis, who happens to be a lawmaker for District 5, says this decision came in the midst of her work during a work council session.
Oh, wow. When the verdict came down, I would have to say that I breathed a sigh of relief. And I think that sigh of relief you could feel pretty much throughout the country because, you know, we just had so much anticipation that not so much that anything different would happen. We wanted justice to happen. We wanted the jurors to do what they were assigned to do.
She says this verdict reaches us in Texas because it's a larger issue, not about one man, but about racial injustice.
When the country was watching as George Floyd was being murdered, it just took the heart out of all of us.
And Willis hopes this is simply the beginning of racial change.
It is my hope that we will be able to step in and talk about these things. So many of us are afraid to talk about it. So many of us are afraid to ask an African-American person how it affected you. Ask those questions, be about it. Only then when we can sit down and talk and have a dialogue about it and conversate can we get to the other side.
Crystal, Councilman Willis tells me she's already reached out to Odessa Police Chief Mike Gerke via text today, and she tells me she did this to start the conversation, to see where we can go from here and moving forward, also to make sure that this never happens here in Odessa. Reporting live in Odessa, I'm Rachel Ripp.